Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Graybeard Talks Geospatial. Thanks, everyone, for coming today. This is Bruce Buxton in beautiful, windy Pennsylvania. Hi, I've got my special guest with me today, Todd Slint. Todd, can you say hi to everyone?
Hello, everyone.
Looking cool in his specs and his glasses out in the sun in sunny Seattle. Has the weather been pretty good there this spring?
Actually, it's been raining up here, especially in spring. You know, we never get any clearing sunny days until after the 4th of July. So yeah. I'm going to keep that myth intact. So wait, you're not seeing what you're seeing.
I'm finding that most of the people I know that live in the Northwest, they don't tell the truth about the weather because they know that there's already enough pressure. If they told the truth about the weather, then everybody would be there.
Well, we always have room for good people, so.
Very good. All right. Well, hey, Todd, today we have joining with us, we have Tom Tercio, Michael Iveson, James Mitchell, Diana Herbst, and someone that looks like it's probably Jeff Haight in sunny Seattle. So welcome. If you're on the live stream but you haven't checked in by putting your name where you are watching from, please do that in the comments so that Todd and I have an idea of who we're talking to. So Todd, today is Earth Day, and as you know, we had the opportunity to do this a month ago, and then I had a little glitch in the streaming service, and I couldn't stream that day, so we had to cancel it. And that was really a difficult thing to take until we realized that the day that we could reschedule it would be Earth Day, and that posed some really great opportunities for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the days that I mark on my calendar every year, and I try to do something special, like be involved in a cleanup or take out some invasive species out of my yard or things like that. So I also try not to drive on this day usually, but once you have kids of a certain age, it's really hard to avoid. And I kind of got bit in the rear end a little bit because I had to run a little errand for my kids and got stuck behind a garbage truck of all things on my way back to this live stream. So
that's okay.
Earth Day is a great day.
The modern world requires some things of us that maybe we'd rather not do, but sometimes it is what it is. One of the things that I was thinking about was that the Critigen does have a history of working in this space of using spatial data to help. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the part that we play in that. But before we do that, I want to read a quote that I came up with today, and I want to get your reaction to it. You're familiar with Rachel Carson, I'm sure. Yes?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay,
excellent. Spring. Very influential book, yep.
Very influential. Okay, so I want to read this quote, and I want your reaction to it. Only within the 20th century has biological thought been focused on ecology, or the relation of living creatures to its environment. Awareness of ecological relationships is, or should be, the basis of modern conservation programs. For it is useless to attempt to preserve a living species unless the kind of land or water it requires is also preserved. So delicately interwoven are the relationships that when we disturb one thread of the community fabric, we alter it all, perhaps almost imperceptibly, perhaps so drastically that destruction follows. Love to hear your reaction on that quote.
Yeah, it really resonates with me. I'm a product of the Evergreen State College, which taught kind of holistic approach to problem solving and understanding the interconnectedness of things. And oftentimes I think we do things in this world and we produce externalities that we don't really understand the consequences of. And I think as we move forward and everything that we do kind of is done in this kind of context and background of climate change, people become more and more aware of how their activities, their choices, what they do from day to day is either kind of pushing us in one direction or another. But at the end of the day, we need to build kind of resilient systems that preserve the ability for all the aspects of our environment and in our world and our ecosystem and our biosphere, rely upon for all of us to be and live. So
I was really impressed by the sentence that says, let's see, so delicately interwoven are the relationships that when we disturb one thread of the community fabric, we alter it all. And I was thinking about how that is so true, but we don't recognize it in the short term because the results aren't short-term results, they're more long-term.
Absolutely. And, when you read that back, it reminded me of, some of the work that we've, done in the past in environmental analysis and GIS, where, GIS allows you to layer on all these different issues into a location and really, gonna get a visible understanding of what the interplay and what the conflicts and what the overlaps are. And, some of the work that we've done in the Seattle area that I was involved with early in my career, it was really around, not having everybody do their bits in isolation and really kind of going down decision paths without understanding how their work might need to relate to others. So that interweaving, that's something that GIS can really help, look at that fabric or that tapestry of issues and of environmental resources, and really understand, what the best way forward is to balance the needs of the built environment and the human activity that needs to happen in the environment, but also preserving those things that we all love to hear and see and touch and feel and be a part of as well.
Yeah, I think that the concept of interwoven relationships makes me think of GIS. I mean, it makes me think of that, like you're saying, the layering on of different sets of data that tell a whole story instead of just a piece of the story. So I wanted to say that one of our listeners here, Diana Herbst, is saying she's planting 4 redbud trees for Earth Day. So I guess that means, Diana, that you're going to miss the redbud blooms this year. And right here in Pennsylvania, the redbuds are just incredibly full and beautiful right now. So great time of the year. We love this time of the year. So let's talk for a minute, Todd, just a little bit about the history of Critigen and kind of what are the places that Critigen, both in our history and in our modern work today, where do we touch ecological or conservation issues that you think are important for listeners to understand?
Sure. Yeah. So going back into the early days, like pre-Critigen, a lot of us were involved with a company called CH2M Hill, which was a project delivery firm that did a lot of large-scale infrastructure projects in the U.S., but all around the world. And a lot of us got involved in those projects, as I mentioned, in the environmental aspects, but also in other kind of planning phases of the work. So we've been involved in kind of helping to understand how to make infrastructure projects work in harmony with the natural environment. And a lot of us kind of carry those values forward into the work that we choose to do at Critigen now. And, we're helping utility companies understand how to better manage their infrastructure and their linear assets. And we're building mobility solutions that help them, kind of map out the specifics of the environments that their infrastructure is operated in. We're doing things like working with the Nature Conservancy and helping communities in the Caribbean, for instance, understand how they can best position themselves to be resilient to climate change, and how their fisheries change and how their tourism is impacted by changing landscapes and sargassum weeds blowing in onto their shores and making their beaches not as nice and appealing. And we're also, doing things in like East Africa, where we're helping to understand the movement of displaced peoples who are either fleeing civil conflict, which may be as a result of a drought, or are just moving to an area where they can, make a life off of the land and do some subsistence farming. So, when you take a step back and look at all of the things that we're involved in, just about everything has an environmental aspect to it or an element to it. And it's either kind of working directly on those issues that we might, typically think about when we think about the environment, the bugs and bunnies and plants and water and other resources, but also, the people that are living in those environments and the infrastructure that we're building to least impact those environments. So, we're also, and I think people are probably familiar with this kind of way of operating a business, but we have an environmental and social governance model where we're trying to make sure that we're at the highest level of our business considering environment and social issues, so that we're being good stewards of both our community and our environment that we're working in. So I would say the way that Critigen relates to the environment is in a huge number of ways, and every day and in every way.
Yeah, well, I wanted to tell you how impressed I was. You and I did a presentation together in New York a couple of years ago, and I was impressed that you flew all the way from New York City, and you found ways during that trip to offset your carbon footprint during your trip there. And I thought the level of commitment you showed to your principles was pretty significant. Do you do that all the time when you travel, or when you used to travel?
Yeah, I try. It's sometimes it's hard to keep in front of mind, but every once in a while I'll just remember, I need to plant a tree, or I need to do one of these carbon exchange services to offset some travel that I've made. But yeah, I am conscious of my footprint all the time. I choose to use my bike as much as I practically can, and I do like to go to the mountains, and it's pretty hard to bike to the mountains with my snowboard on my back. So I do inflict some carbon on the planet, but I try to make up for it.
Yeah, well, I think that's the point, right? The point is that we know that in our modern first world, we're going to put some carbon out there. So the idea is just to be proactive about the way that we offset that if possible. Let me go back to what you said earlier. I'd love to hear more about. Can you tell me more about the analysis of that project of displaced subsistence farmers? What was the analysis you're doing there? You touched on it a little bit, but what were the nuts and bolts of that analysis?
Sure. So we were working with an organization called Impact Initiatives, and they are a nonprofit group primarily focused on working with refugees and people that are generally in a very tough spot in life and in their circumstances. And so we built a mobile web app that was responsive and mobile first, and we built an anonymous survey that was used by social workers who encountered displaced people and helped determine where they were coming from, where they would plan to travel to, how many people were in their family, what the needs were in terms of sustenance, food, medical help, and so forth. And so all of that data, which was taken anonymously, so as not to put people at risk of harm by pirates or whoever was running around in the desert where they were traveling through, and that went to the humanitarian aid offices, but also to child welfare organizations in these were countries in the Horn of Africa. So they were then able to kind of see patterns of travel by these people, and then try to proactively position resources so that they were available to them where they were. So they didn't have to kind of wander forever, but actually had resources and relief headed to them to where they were. So they were able to kind of see larger kind of patterns of migration of these displaced people, and then mobilized, like I said, not only government resources, but other humanitarian organizations within the area. So it was sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, it was an online, offline mobile web app, which was pretty cool technically, because we were operating in a very austere environment, and we needed to create a system that stored all that data locally and then synced it back up when people actually were able to get online.
Yeah, it's exciting. Those kinds of that kind of analysis and that kind of data collection is, I think, where we shine as a company, and that's exciting to see that applied to something that's so important to people and their well-being and their livelihood. I mean, that's kind of taking it to a different level than we're going to help someone manage $1 billion worth of assets in the first world. That's taking it to the third world and saying, we're going to make sure you have a place to live. We're going to help you find a place to live based on the data that is collected and then and analyzed. That's really fun. Really cool, I think. Okay, so let's just shift a little bit. Let's talk about what's going on today. You run a side of the business where you have a whole bunch of different customers, like two sides of our business. We have a lot of utility customers on one side, state and local governments on the other side, and on your side of the business, you run that is more about people like the Nature Conservancy or the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Tell me how that came about. Like how do you get those kind of customers in the first place, and why would they pick you, Todd?
Well, I don't know if I can answer that second question, but I can certainly try to answer the first one. We oftentimes start with a look kind of at what's happening in the world and identify mega trends or issues or things that are just happening that we want to be part of the solution to. So way back in the early aughts, I guess you'd say, we kind of looked around the Seattle area and looked at organizations that were doing stuff and thought, wow, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are doing great things. We want to get involved in that. And at the time, they had been starting up an agricultural development program. So we just kind of cold called them. And actually, a gentleman named Jeff Haight actually made that first initial cold call and got us in the door. And kind of we just started talking about what their needs were and kind of things just kind of took off from there. And 16 years later, we're still enjoying a very rewarding relationship working with them and have been around the world and done a lot of different things with them. And now they're really turning their focus towards climate adaptation. And so that's really exciting to kind of be working with them on the cutting edge of that issue.
So I'll take you out of the middle of it then, and I'll ask the question a different way. So why did they choose Critterton over and over again for 16 years?
Well, I think that we did. So maybe I'm giving away a little bit of our tradecraft here, but we try to do a little bit of homework up front, and we try to start that conversation from a point of, being deeply informed on the issues. So we understand the use cases, we understand the problem statements. We really kind of can come with a half-developed solution and start the conversation a little bit closer to where they are, instead of kind of starting with what our quals are and what our technology toolkit is. Really kind of engaging at that, let's discuss the solution, kind of leave the technology to be picked up, kind of once that solution is further down the road. And, I think that the other piece, the stickiness of it is just, once you've kind of made that initial investment, there's this, understanding that this relationship has capital, and that is a thing that should be preserved and enhanced and enriched, and we want to build on it. And so it just becomes, something that, people have a hard time, good performance on projects is also a very important part of it. But when you're invested in a relationship, there's a mutual interest in keeping it going.
Yeah, now I don't mean to put you on the spot with that question, but I do think that you're not putting anything out there that anybody else couldn't do on their own. The fact of the matter is, it's hard to invest in your customer and to take, to really make their needs the center of what you're doing rather than your needs. So I think that's just good business, Todd. That's, in my mind, that's just good business. Oh, there a couple other. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, executing on common sense, maybe.
maybe that's it. All right. Now, another thing that your folks are doing is we're doing some stuff with OSM, and people might know that as OpenStreetMaps. So let's talk about OSM. Let's talk about OpenStreetMaps, and just kind of give us a little primer. I guess if we have any Brits in the audience, a little primer on what it is, what OpenStreetMaps is, and where we're playing in that world.
Sure. So OpenStreetMap is a free and open source map of the world for everyone, and anyone can be a contributor, and anyone can download the data for free and under certain conditions, under a license, and do whatever they would like with it. And so our initial experience with OpenStreetMap was as a user and a contributor. So in our work in Africa, we used OpenStreetMap, which was the best available source to do things like market analyses for new orange fruit supply chains, or market access analysis for siting of different types of agricultural facilities in the value chain, like cleaning and milling stations for different types of commodities. So that was more than 10 years ago. We started using OSM in that capacity. And again, we were contributing to complete some of the networks that we were using to do our network analysis. And then we were downloading a lot of and getting a lot of value out of OSM to do our analysis and create products for our clients. And then we started getting involved with people like the Red Cross and the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team. And we were able to apply some of our software development skills in building some of the tools that helped facilitate the kind of maintenance and upkeep of OpenStreetMap. And so we've built things like OpenMapKit, which is a blending of OpenDataKit with OSM. And we helped build the initial portable OpenStreetMap, which is an offline database that you can take to the field, which has all of OSM in it. And you can use that to do immediate kind of post-disaster coordination and mapping and enhancing the OSM when you're out there post-hurricane and there are no wires up anywhere, and you're really kind of working with a local Wi-Fi network to add new data to the map. And then more recently, we've been involved with some larger tech companies to help them utilize OpenStreetMap to fill in some of the gaps in some of the base maps out there. So it's really kind of our work with OSM has evolved as OSM has matured as a product and as a viable source of data to build base maps and to do kind of what I call higher order use cases like routing and network analysis and so forth. So if I could just say one more thing about OSM, I'd like to announce publicly that we are starting our Trash Sites initiative today on Earth Day. We've announced it internally, and an external announcement will come shortly. But what we're trying to do is use OpenStreetMap as a database to facilitate a global map of trash collection sites, so that when people in the developing world come upon a big pond full of garbage and they know where to take that garbage, or when an NGO or an organization wants to go and help do something around solid waste management, they know what kind of collection and network exists to get rid of those waste streams that they want to help address. So we're modeling it on the healthsites.io initiative, which was a similar effort to map all of the health facilities around the world. And so it's going to be a pretty exciting initiative. We're going to mobilize a lot of youth. We're going to make sure that we have a lot of other folks involved in countries that we've worked in the past, and we have access to through our partnership with the Youth Mapper Network. So we're really excited. So anyway, we're doing a ton of stuff with OSM. We've done a lot of fun stuff in the past, and are looking forward to being kind of a Johnny Appleseed for other industries and sectors to look how they could use OSM to add value to their organization and their mapping efforts. And so we think OSM is great, and we're enthusiastic members of that community, and will continue to be.
Oh, you heard it here first, folks, that Critigen is going to be moving in that, I guess. So you're saying that is a Critigen initiative, that we are taking that one by that bull by the horns. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. So we're thought leaders at this point, and we hope to mobilize a lot of friends and family and others to help us actually carry it out. Okay,
so we have lots of listeners from different parts of the country here. No one from across the pond, but if you're listening and you want to get involved in that, just send me an email or DM me or DM Todd, and we'll tell you how you can get involved in that initiative. That's really exciting. A couple other things that I want to mention here. I think that you also have, you've done a lot in your part of the business. You've done a lot with data as a service, and really trying hard to crack that nut. Now, I know that we probably don't want to go too far down that road, but tell me what your thoughts are on data as a service.
Yeah, so You know, one of the things that was very in vogue when I got really serious about GIS in my career was the global spatial the global spatial data infrastructure was kind of a common architecture that everybody could kind of follow to make everybody's data kind of interoperable, and kind of everything would kind of roll up to one massive data set. And that kind of collapsed under its own weight. It was very complex. It required a lot of coordination that just wasn't feasible. And so so people are still kind of searching for that authoritative data out there. And so what we are finding is that people are hungry. People can find all kinds of data. It's just a matter of, can they find the right data for their problem? So what we're looking to do is, at least starting with some of our partners, our clients that we work with, help them publish data sets as a service that kind of both is, a very modern and immediately useful format. So using both kind of REST services, but also downloadable data sets if that's appropriate. That comes with robust metadata, and it's clearly kind of been blessed by the producers and authors, for what its intended purposes. But also looking at publishing derivative data sets that may be the result of analyses by subject matter experts. That is what we call analysis ready data. So, maybe it's a data set that has been originally developed at a very granular level. Maybe it's a raster model output that's highly granular, but people really only need to answer the questions at like a county level or something. So maybe we'll help create and publish a data service that has those kind of intermediate summary levels. So those, again, are just really immediately usable, and a lay person or someone who is not as deeply familiar with GIS as the producer was can get access to that immediately. And so the last thing is that we're really trying to go about this in a way that's going to be compliant with the emerging data privacy standards, both the European ones and the ones that are kind of following along in the US and other places. So we're looking to provide data that's robust, secure, ready for use, and there's another aspect that we're still kind of working on is making sure that it's monetizable. So there's at least some revenue coming back that can help update the data, pay for the hosting costs, and but be very much usage based, so that people aren't paying for any more than they're actually using, and that it's fair and reasonable, and not a barrier to people using it.
That was one of the things that when you and I talked about this first that really captured my attention was the idea that you have different organizations out there creating data just as a matter of course, as a matter of what they do, and that you could use that data and you could find ways to use that data, but those data sources would get a little stale because they weren't upgraded, they weren't updated all the time, because these organizations didn't have the money to actually do that. So one of the ideas here is that as you monetize these data sources, then that provides a little bit of money to be able to continue the data collection and to upgrade it and update it on a regular basis. Did I get that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think one of the things that, going back to the early days of Credigen, one of the things that we learned was that oftentimes our clients considered our static map as the end product, and data sets, or the data, was just a byproduct, or kind of not the asset. It was the map that went into the report. So our smart people on our team, led, I think, back then by Jamie Crawford and Angela Johnson and those folks, they really kind of got our clients to understand that the data was the asset, and that as we create this data, we can be enhancing it as the different stages in the infrastructure lifecycle went through, so that when we got some original data, that data was kind of preserved and enhanced along the entire engagement that we had with them. So anyway, so I don't know, that's just kind of a thought.
No, it's good. Good call out for Jamie Crawford and Angela Johnson. I like that. You've been in my clubhouse room, and I do a clubhouse room every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And the club is the Geospatial Connections Club, and we have different kinds of We have different topics that we address there, you know, from jobs to you know, just curiosities about GIS, different things that we talk about. And it is just amazing to me that almost every conversation ends up in what cool data source have you found, or what cool data sources do you use in your passion project? I mean, almost, it's really funny, almost every week that where we end up is talking about the data, which I think is really telling about GIS, about spatial data, that just, you know, those who know that it's all about the data.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was once given the advice by one of my clients, stay close to the data because that's where the value is. So as much as we love making these beautiful apps that do great things for the end users, those are a little bit ephemeral. Like, you know, when the new web framework comes out, you know, nobody wants to work with the old one anymore. And so as long as you kind of are familiar with the data and can be adding value in that space, you're going to have a long career.
Yeah, well, you know, I guess I've often thought an ugly map with great data can tell you an awful lot more than a beautiful map with terrible data, right? There's a lot more to be told. Yeah. So a question I like asking: what's your dog's name there, Todd? Look at him; he's ready to play ball with you.
Her name is Layla, and she was uninvited, but she's
having a good time. So a question I like to ask all of my guests on the Graveyard Talks Geospatial is, when you look out into the future, you know, just for you, Todd, and also for the business that you're a part of, both from both of those perspectives, when you look out into the future, what really excites you? What's out there that really gets you going, where you think, gosh, I can't wait to dig into this, or this time will come when I'll have a crack at that. What is that when you think of it?
So we've gotten our feet wet a little bit with the intersection of machine learning and artificial intelligence and geospatial, and we're, you know, really looking at these use cases for what we call ML enhanced or machine learning enhanced geospatial analysis services. So that's really exciting to me, and you know, you're able to kind of enhance, you know, traditional kind of surveyed data with social media exhaust or signals that are derived from, you know, other human activity that happens online. And so we're really excited about that, and how, you know, we see that, you know, within like enterprise customers, you know, they only have so much resource to continue to expand their data stores. So if we can help them grab value out of this massive world of digital activity and bring that into their enterprise with some additional value that enriches, you know, their core data, then that's super exciting, because that opens up whole new horizons for us to learn new technologies and to, you know, just bring all new types of value to our customers, make them look good, and you know, do super fun stuff.
So machine learning it is. We'll take that. Yeah. Todd's passion project is machine learning. We'll take that. All right. Hey, before we finish today, I want to thank everybody who was watching. I've got Tom Tercio and Michael Iveson, James Mitchell, Diana Herbst, Mike Eggenberger, Don Abercrombie. Let's see who else we have here. I think Jeff Haight's watching, because his LinkedIn profile never shows up on here, but I think he's watching. Anyway, I just want to thank everybody for coming, and I have this little live stream every Thursday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time. And I think I have some good guests, both from within Critigen and also in the industry as well. So you can learn things about what other folks are doing with geospatial data, and you can learn a little bit about what we bring to the table at Critigen in geospatial. So I just want to thank everybody for coming, and please tell your friends and put it on your calendar, and just set aside a half hour for some good enriching talk once every week. All right. So Todd, before we cut everybody off today, any last thoughts or anything that comes to mind that you would like people to know about yourself or your business?
Well, I think I would just like everybody to make sure that they take a moment to go out and experience some nature, or pick up some trash, or do something for the environment today and for yourself. So I just leave it with that. Happy Earth Day, everyone.
Happy Earth Day. And I think what Todd's saying is take action, Don't sit on your hands. There's nothing better than taking action. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming today. Todd, you've been a fantastic guest. Thank you for being here. And I look forward to the next time we have a chance to talk.
Great.
All right. See you later. Ciao.